Hey there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cybersecurity Mag and I'm super stoked that you're here. Today's video, we're going to be discussing some of the most common assumptions that are made about females who work in IT. Give you a forewarning, most of these are pretty ridiculous and silly, so just keep that in mind. Obviously, they don't come from me. These are just some of the most repetitive assumptions that I've seen that I've collected off of Reddit, Facebook, other forums of that sort that kind of make those really terrible and unjustified assumptions. That said, all these opinions that I'm going to be discussing are completely those of my own, not those of my employer, so keep that in mind throughout this video, and let's get into it. Assumption number one. The first assumption is that women are not as technical as men. Y'all saw that coming. Let's not even act surprised. We all knew that was going to be on the list here. And when I try to reverse engineer this in my head a little bit to understand where the assumption comes from, it's kind of makes a little bit of sense to me. And the reason I say that is because when you look at the IT workforce, you'll see that there are more men than there are female. If you hone in specifically on the cybersecurity workforce, you'll see there are more men than there are female. So if you're so narrow minded to think, men are more technical than women, or women can't be technical, then chances are you might be getting this assumption from the fact that there are more men working in IT than females. And you're probably saying, Meg, well, having more men work in IT doesn't mean that females can't be technical. I completely agree with you, friend. I do. I'm just trying to explain where maybe that terrible misconstrued assumption might be coming from. At the end of the day, a very interesting fact that I learned in my research is that there are actually more females who hold higher degrees, such as, well, graduate degrees or PhDs, generally in technical fields, than there are men. That's going to tie into another assumption we're going to speak about later, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because it is really interesting. The second assumption that we're going to be discussing is the assumption that the only reason women get hired into IT roles or technical roles is because organizations are trying to bolster their diversity and trying to make their statistics of men to women look better. Again, what a loaded assumption. And honestly, what a terrible assumption to make about why someone would get hired. Like, I've never had someone get hired onto my team and look at them and be like, you clearly only got hired because you're in your late 50s or 60s, and we need to show on our team that we have more diversity and we're all not just young people. And I've never looked at someone and been like, oh, you only got hired because you're a male. You would think when someone gets hired that you would have enough respect for the hiring manager, for the organization that you work for the HR department, to be knowledgeable and know that the person who's getting hired is going to be the best fit or provide the best value or provide the best learning ability for your team and for the job that they have been hired for. I'm not really sure where the assumption comes from that women are only getting hired to help bolster the statistics. Frankly, that's a very sad assumption to me. I don't like it. I don't want to read about it anymore. I know I'm going to continue to read about it. I just don't even know where this one comes from, though. So if you have any idea on what could be leading people to make this assumption, comment down below. Let me know. I'd be happy to hear about your thoughts on it. The third assumption that is commonly made about females is that females working in IT cannot earn the same salary slash wages slash pay as the man sitting next to her who does the same job, has the same qualifications, experience, etc. I can't really speak on this because I don't have an accurate understanding of personally like what my colleagues made. It's not something that I really discuss or something that I could personally speak to, nor would it be professional of me, even if I did. But what I did do was my research. And according to ISC Squared, in their recent report that they put out that discusses kind of women and their role within cybersecurity, it was very evident in their findings that there are some pretty extreme pay gaps that do exist This is specifically in cybersecurity. I wasn't able to find something that really spoke to and was reliable about pay gaps in IT. However, when I was reading ISC Scored's article, which I'll link down below, what they discuss is that there tends to be larger pay gaps between men and women when women are older. So a lot of the millennials or even Gen Z people who are entering the workforce, they tend to be demanding the higher salaries of the people who are sitting next to them. Unfortunately, it seems that the more middle-aged and higher-aged women are being more affected by this. I'm not really sure why this exists, perhaps because those people lived, obviously, during a time where the pay gap was even larger. I don't know. I'm not in that age range. I can't really make an assumption about it myself, nor would I want to make an assumption about it myself. I don't understand why a hiring manager or whoever's deciding the salary for those people would, have two people who have the same qualifications, experience, background, etc., and want to pay the man more money than the female. I really don't. If you are a hiring manager or someone who's making these salary decisions, comment down below. Maybe let us know some of the reasons behind this. I'd be really interested to hear. Assumption number 4, women often feel that they have to earn more degrees or certifications to reach the same level of success or pay level as men. This all kind of ties into what I was speaking about earlier, where women hold more postgraduate degrees than men when it comes to technical fields. And I think this all attributes personally back to imposter syndrome. Now, if you're not familiar with what imposter syndrome is essentially the feeling of not fitting in, that you don't belong where you are, you shouldn't have the success that you do, you shouldn't have the job that you do, that you were only hired because of needing to have more females or needing to have more Latinos or needing to have more of a specific kind of minority trait to bolster diversity statistics. And these people often feel that they're only there because they are needed to help bolster statistics and that they weren't hired because of their qualifications or because of what they can bring to the table. And again, I think that really ties into why we're seeing so many women acquiring more certifications and more postgraduate degrees than we're seeing in men. Because, and it's very unfortunate, in all the research that I've done, it's showing that more females are feeling the side effects of imposter syndrome than there are men. I'll link that down below so that you can read the article as well. But I think this really explains why we're seeing so many females who are doing so many excess things to try to reach the same level as men, because we feel that to be on the same level as men, that we need to outperform them or that we need to prove that we belong in the job and the role that we're at. The next assumption that we're going to discuss is that women are often being interrupted or spoken over. And this obviously doesn't apply to just IT. This could be, in any field whatsoever. Um, this is a very interesting one. Honestly, I would like to listen and hear the opinions of all my female viewers. Do you often find that when you are trying to put forth your opinion or state a fact or challenge something that another colleague has said, that you are being spoken over, that you're being interrupted or passed over or ignored or whatever the term is, that your opinions are being pushed to the side? I would be very interested to hear this. I personally have experienced it several times where I've had to get really good at saying, "Excuse me, I'm very interested in hearing your opinion. However, if you could please allow me to finish mine before you state yours," or something to that tune. It's a really good sentence to be able to rehearse over and over so that you can use it when it's necessary. I do think that this happens very often to females, especially if you're in a male dominated field where perhaps you're the only female sitting in the room or sitting at the table or on the Zoom conference. Again, I'd be really curious to hear from the rest of females about your experience with this. The next assumption is that women often are labeled as bossy or bitchy when they hold leadership positions. And again, I did extensive research on this before filming, and I found that it is often a sentiment that when women are in positions of leadership slash power, whether it's an executive C level or director or something of the sort, that women are viewed as being bossy or bitchy, whereas men are being viewed as strong leaders for essentially doing the same thing, doing their job and being a leader. So, this is a very interesting contrast I find between viewing women in leadership versus viewing men in leadership. Perhaps the reasoning behind this is because we're so used to seeing men in leadership. What is it out of the Fortune 100, Fortune top 100 CEOs? It's like only a handful that are female. And I think when you really hone in on this and look at it, we're so used to seeing men in these leadership positions that when we're seeing women in the leadership positions, that unfortunately people are thinking, well, how did you get there? Instead of saying, oh, your qualifications are fantastic. You put in the extra work, you got the degrees, you got the certifications, you automated things, you saved money, you helped the budget, you helped the business, all the fantastic things that people are doing to reach their career goals. We're looking at the fact of, oh, you're a woman, so you must have done X, Y, or Z to get into your position. And this is very saddening and unfortunate, I think. I have two more assumptions that are often made about females in IT. And one of them is that females are too emotional or too sensitive to be working in positions of leadership, or that they're too emotional or too sensitive to be making important decisions. And, I think this is very funny because there was this meme trending on the internet that essentially said, you all want to think that women are too emotional, but have you ever seen a man who, like, basically gets killed in a video game or something like that? And it just made me laugh really hard. But, there are so many studies that point out to the benefits of having a diverse workforce and diverse leadership, and how decisions that are being made are much more effective when there are various diverse candidates who are working together to make the decisions. And it blows my mind that to this day, people are still making the assumption that women are too emotional or too sensitive to be achieving and accomplishing the same things as men, or that I think maybe where this comes from, I know specifically in cybersecurity, I can't speak outside of cybersecurity, but in cybersecurity, a lot of times you're often making very fast paced and important decisions on how to react to things. And you really have to keep a clear mind and a calm demeanor to be able to clearly and effectively make those decisions. So perhaps that's where this stems from. I can see where if someone is overly emotional or overly sensitive, that it may affect decision making. However, I'm not sure why women are being pegged as being more emotional or more sensitive. I've never experienced that myself. In fact, I would think that myself personally, that I'm an extremely level-headed, calm person. Perhaps that does come with on the job experience and learning how to react to things, and how when you react to something in a poor way, it's going to set the tone for the rest of that maybe incident you're working on. And if you react in a good way, if you take a step back, take a few deep breaths, calm yourself down, then you're going to have a more successful and faster paced resolution. So perhaps that comes with experience. That's my opinion on it. I'd be interested to hear yours. The last assumption about females working in IT is that females working in leadership positions in IT, or really anywhere females working in leadership positions, regardless of what department, do not want to have children. I love how just everything leads back to someone or some organization wanting to put their 2 cents into why women do or do not want to have children. It just, like, blows my mind why anyone would ever think that because a female is in a leadership position, that she does not want to have children. I think females and males are both extremely capable of making the responsible decision of whether or not they're going to be able to balance work and life regardless of what position they're in. There are plenty of females who are just fantastic leaders who have done so many amazing things and made so many impactful changes while they have children. And the assumption that women who are in these roles do not want to have children just bewilders me. And frankly, I'm just like, why would you ever think about why someone does or does not want to have children, anyways? It's none of your business, right? That's just my 2 cents. Those are some of the most common assumptions about females who work in IT or really any field that's more male dominated. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I want to close out by saying that regardless of if you're female or male, I expect that we're not making these assumptions. I would expect better. I want us to attribute the same level of respect and decency to everyone, regardless of their gender. That's not even something I should have to say, but I hope you learned something from this video. Perhaps if one of these assumptions ever crossed your mind, now you've gotten a little bit more information about it. You can check out some of the articles that I've linked below. That way you can read up on it. And let's do better, guys. That's all I can say. Let's do better. Have a great week. I'll see you in a video on Thursday. And yeah, we'll talk then. Ciao.